of, is it Secqation? Know how to automate your security test cases. Riddhi, are you there?
Yes, Jessica.
Hello again. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic. How is Winja doing?
Winja was doing awesome. We had really good time. I was there all the time, and if you see the Winja channel, there was a lot of interactions and good number of players solved a lot of challenges. And we definitely have to announce winners in some time.
Oh, yes, we will have the announcement. We will have the announcement of winners at the finale. So we're really looking forward to that. Plus you can always see the lineup of the random winners in the prize spot. So Riddhi, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm looking forward to your talk today.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks.
Hello everyone, and welcome everyone. My name is Riddhi Shree, and today the topic is Secqation. And this is all about automating security test cases. We all know that, so a little bit before I just get into this topic further, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I do something as a profession in order to earn. I have a passion, and I also have a hobby. So as a profession, I'm a security analyst consultant at Arogya. Sometimes I also do secure coding training for Academy. And most of the time, I am occupied with community activities at Winja. So just now you heard Jessica say that we were talking about Winja CTF. So we had a CTF competition, and I feel very proud to say that I'm associated with the organizing team. And we are the ones who created the challenges and did the entire setup. And it's too much of fun. So as a hobby, I like spending my time with community. And I have also given talks at various conferences, like besides KuCon, NullCon. So most of them have been national and some of them have been international. And today I'm speaking at Wicked 6. So this is my Twitter ID and LinkedIn ID you can see on the screen. Now, what is Secqation? Before arriving at Secqation, and this term Secqation, it's a combination of security. QA stands for quality analysis, quality analyst, which is testing, and SHUN comes from automation. So security test automation, that's how this term came up. Now, what was the problem that I was trying to solve when I came up with this term and everything that surrounds it? So I have very short attention span. I can't spend too much time on one thing alone. I mean, first time it's good. I enjoy it. I like exploring. But if I have to do something again and again, and I have to repeat myself, I find it very exhausting, and I lose interest over a period of time. But there are certain things which especially in security, when you are doing on a security assignment, there are certain tasks I have realized that which needs to be done all the time. And there is a very there are very specific steps, which also we'll take a look at quickly soon, which needs to be done. And I felt that these can be automated to an extent. Obviously, complete automation is not possible and should not be attempted also, because human intelligence, there is no replacement for that. But there are still a lot of things that can be automated. But when we speak of automation, it's not what are the problems? Why don't we all know that automation is good, but not everybody goes for automation? Because probably there are certain things like the tool which they might be familiar with is very costly. For example, okay, Selenium is something which people use. I don't know, I can't remember the tools because I don't use paid tools, but there are tools and they cost too much. That's what I know. And that's when I started finding alternatives. That is there anything which is open source, which is available freely, and which we can use to do the automation? So one problem was cost. The second problem was setup. So whenever we talk about automation, especially Selenium would most probably be there in picture. With Selenium, even if you're trying to use the Selenium library yourself directly, and you're dealing with web drivers, then it feels like it's too much of effort, too confusing, and too messy. So when we want, how do we simplify this? And sometimes it also feels like it needs too much of technical expertise, too much of experience for you to, in order to be able to use Selenium web drivers, right? So is there a simpler way? Is there something which we can use, and which is free to use, and which is also simple to set up, easy to understand? We don't have to maintain separate documentation. And then it should not be too restrictive. There are tools out there which are good, but then they are not. There's a point whenever you are using a tool, there comes a point when you feel that maybe this feature should have been there in this tool. So it is not, then you have to go and start using another tool, and then you have to try to consolidate output from different tools. So these are all things that I really irritated me to an extent, and I wanted to see if there is a solution which we can come up with. So what is the solution? That use open source tools. So the cost is taken care of. I don't need to pay heavy amount of money. I'm going to use tools which are open source and freely available. Second thing, for the environment thing, obviously there has to be some effort, initial effort. So how do I simplify it? Maybe I can Dockerize the entire setup. If I Dockerize it, next time it has to be done once, and it has to be done by only one person. So even if I have done it and I can just release it, anybody who wants to use it, they can just do a Docker pull and they can use it, right? So if that entire test environment has been Dockerized, then it makes it simple for everyone. So now you're not worried about environment. All you need is Docker in your machine, and you have to do a Docker pull, and your environment is ready. Now, all you need to do is you need to focus on test cases. You need to focus on the logic that needs to go in, right? That's where the focus is, and that's where we want the focus to be. The third thing is follow behavior-driven testing approach for easy readability, understandability. What does this mean? This means that a lot of times when we write test cases or when we write code, it becomes two separate things. You write code. And so when you are writing automation test cases, there are scripts that you are maintaining, and then you have to separately write test scenarios, test cases, and these are two different things, parallel things which you are maintaining. But what if you don't have to do these two things separately? You just write in English language. So something which is which anyone can understand. It's like reading something in English, reading statements, and that itself is automatically converted into code, right? So it works both ways. It works as your code. It also works as your documentation. How wonderful that would be, wouldn't that be? So I think it's amazing. Then using an automation framework which is very easy, efficient, customizable. I stress highly on customizable because I believe that there is no one tool which can serve all your purpose. And if it is customizable, you can tweak it, and you can just make it work according to your own needs. And also, final test report. I don't think many people enjoy creating test report after they are done with the assessment. This is the toughest part, and this is even though it feels like it's just that putting everything that you have found, but it still drains you out because you have to do the paperwork. What if there is a way to auto-generate report in a manner which can be shared easily with others? So what is Secqation? As I said, it is security testing and quality assurance automation. Now, security testing happens almost everywhere. I don't say everywhere, but almost, because now people are getting more security aware, and more people are trying to bring in security the way testing has a place in IT industry. But I think there's almost every company has a quality team in place. Functional testing is always done before a product is released into production, right? So whenever this functional testing is done and more complex your product is, you definitely write automation test cases. What if these automation test cases are already there, which is almost covering all of the functionalities, all of the features which have been built into your application? What if you can leverage the same test case and extend it to give it a security angle. So you can because the same test cases, you use it and then add some more features to it, so it also helps the security analyst. Now they are different, they are two different things, very different things, security testing and functional testing. We are looking at the same application but from very different perspectives. Functional testing is to make sure your application is working the way it is expected to. Security testing is to see your application is working as it's not expected to, right? So if it works in an unexpected manner, there's high chance that there might be a security vulnerability. So they are different, yet they are similar. So what is, before we take a look at what's common and what's different between them, what you see on the screen is a standard security testing approach. What are the steps involved in that? So whenever we do any kind of security assessment, then there are at least on a high level, you can say these 6 steps that you see on the screen. So what is the first thing that we do? We have most probably you will be given a website URL. And then once you have the URL, you have no idea what it is. So first thing that you're going to do is you'll visit the URL, you'll open the web application, you'll browse through different web pages, you'll try to get familiar with the application. You'll see how many pages are there, how many forms are there, how many links are there, what are the interesting input points. These are the things that first thing is you'll browse, then you will analyze. So once you have browsed through, you have intercepted the request and response, and then now you're analyzing, you are trying to see and where are the entry points, right, which can be attacked. Once you have good understanding of the technologies the application is using and what might be there running on the server, once you get a fair idea, you prepare yourself. You know that these are the entry points, these get URLs are taking these parameters, these are the list of URLs making post requests, these are the forms, these are the inputs where user input is going in. You make a list and you prepare a word list, you prepare a list of payload, and right now we are all preparing that, okay, I think this might be vulnerable to SQL injection, this might be vulnerable to XSS, this might be vulnerable to file upload vulnerabilities. So all these points we have identified, what kind of payload I can try. You are making a list, you are preparing it, and then comes the time to attack. Now once you know the input points, you have the list, we start attacking. We don't so first we do manually, we try to attack, and we see because we just can't bombard an application with a lot of random inputs, especially malicious inputs, you might get blocked. So but there are ways we just start checking whether sending the payloads and seeing the response and see if the attack was successful or not. If we see, so now comes the phase wherein we confirm whether the attack was successful or it was not successful. And then we just make a list of all the vulnerabilities wherever the attack was successful, what is the output, what are the steps we took, and finally we prepare the report. So this is the standard security testing approach that we take. Now what is common and what is different? What is the difference between functional testing and security testing? Now the common things, if you see, I have highlighted a few things here: browse, attack, and report. There is a scope to automate while you are browsing, because this is mindless browsing at this point of time. Then attacking, we have already prepared. So number 2 and number 3, human intervention is required. We need to analyze, we need to spend some manual effort analyzing the application and deciding what payloads we need to pass. Once we have decided, this attack process can be automated. And once we have finalized, also the reporting part also, it can be automated to an extent. So what's common and what's different? The common things are documenting test scenarios. So once we have analyzed, in our mind, we prepare, okay, what kind of test scenarios can I try? So if it is, there is a SQL server running, then I can try SQL injection. If I have, if login is there, we can look for session hijacking issues or session related issues. So we decide test scenarios, which we document, because later we might have to tell what are the scenarios we tried. So documentation, test scenarios, this is something we do. Navigate through different URL paths. Even in functional testing, you will have to test the functions on different pages. You navigate through the application, you invoke each and every functionality, you compare the expected and actual output, and you finally generate the test report. These are all the common steps between security and functional testing. What is different? Now, in case of functional testing, we know what is expected, we know what is, we can see what is the actual output. There's a simple comparison, that's it. But in security testing, now we don't know what to expect. Expected is not very defined. We just have to analyze the output and then take a decision. So we have to identify attack vectors, we have to identify attack points, we have to prepare attack payloads, we have to invoke all the functionality, but with malicious input, random inputs. The payload depends if two different security analysts are looking at the same web page, and they might try a different set of inputs based on their experience and knowledge. We have to confirm the vulnerability. So these are the similarities and differences. The things you need to get started with Secqation. What are the things we need? As I mentioned earlier, that we are going to use everything open source. So robot framework is the most important tool in this scenario, the scenario that I'm going to present to you. So everything else is robot framework, and the last point, which is patience and passion. These are the two mandatory things in this case. Everything else is just a topping. It's just like addition, something you can do to make your entire experience more effective, but they're not mandatory. They're all optional. Only if you want to improve the user experience, if you want to make it more interesting, and if you want to automate complex workflows. So robot framework, Docker, MITM proxy, GitHub, Jenkins, XPath. XPath is something you need to know this knowledge of how XPath works, because in case of automation, and whenever you are dealing with Selenium and websites and web pages, we need to know that if I need to send input, which element should I send input to, and how are elements identified on HTML pages using XPath. XPath is like address of each element in an HTML page. How do I reach to that input box? How do I reach to that button, and so that I can click on it? How does my tool identify, right, where I need to send the input, where do I need to click? So knowledge of XPath is required. Yeah, and these tools, if Docker, GitHub, Jenkins, these are all, if you know, very good. If you don't know, it's very easy to learn about them. And yeah, these are the tools that you need to, you would need. Now, this is an example setup. What you see is, this is the robot framework, which is running. So the robots are running the test cases once you have defined them. And what is the purpose of MITM proxy? MITM proxy is simply intercepting the request and response. Normally, we use Burp Suite. Now, Burp Suite free edition doesn't allow you to intercept. You can't do this integration using Burp Suite. You need a paid version of Burp. But because we are talking about open source tools, MITM proxy is also very good. And using this, the integration was easy, way much easier. So MITM proxy tool can be used. So while all the pages are being visited, and the crawling is being done with different functionalities are being invoked, automatically MITM proxy is also sniffing the traffic, and it is storing it. The requests, the raw requests and raw responses, everything is stored, so that once the test execution completes, it's not just the final output that you see, whatever you have written in the test cases, but there is also a track of all the raw requests and responses that have gone to the server and that have been received from the server, so that if you want to work on those requests, modify, tweak them, and use them in further scenarios, you can do so. So the MITM proxy saves all the traffic, and this traffic, we need to do a manual analysis of this traffic. So think of all the time that will be saved here, right? Think of you just sitting there and clicking, analyzing each and every page. What if it is a huge application? It's a manual work, and why would you spend your energy time on just doing a mindless manual work? Let the robots do it. Let automate those things and use the brain for much useful things. Now, this is a demo that I'm going to show you, and let me run this for you. I think you can't see it. Just a minute.
Yeah, that's working.
So what you see here, right here, these are all the traffic which are being intercepted. So this is a Pabot is what is used, and parallel processing is happening of two different websites, which is further saving your time. And MITM proxy, you can see it is at work and it is intercepting all the traffic. This is how the report looks like. So you can see once the test execution is completed, there is a report which is auto-generated and which you can easily access. And because it is the keywords are human readable, I'm going to explain to you what are the components of robot framework. So this becomes more clear. So yeah, these are what you see the web crawling has completed, and it has gathered some information for you, which all you have to do now is you just have to analyze it, right? And now, to help you understand what just happened, maybe it was not very clear. I can also share the link to this later after the talk. So what is about robot framework? Let me tell you a little bit. So it is a generic open source automation framework, and it can be integrated with virtually any other tool. These are all definitions taken from its own website, and these are all very true. I have first-hand experience. So you can integrate almost any tool that you are working with, right? It has very easy syntax, and as I mentioned earlier, human readable keywords is what we use. What we mean by human readable keywords, it will become clear very soon. The capabilities can be easily extended because there are a lot of libraries that are available and for use. So they are ready and available. You can just install. If I generally use Python, but you have other options as well. If you are working in Java or any other language, it has support for those languages as well. I generally work with Python. So if there are any libraries, you can just do pip install and the library name, and that's it. You just have to import it and you have to use it. Yeah, and you can write your own keywords as well. There are libraries which are available, and you can also write your own custom keywords. It is free to use, and it can be used for both simple and complex scenarios. Now, this is a very basic flow, what you see. So there is all you need to do, any kind of very basic automation if you have to do. All you need is one single file with that ends with .robot extension. So in this case, it is app.robot. Once you know what needs to be put into that file, all you need to do is you have installed robot framework and you have to run this keyword robot and give the name of the file. That's all. That's all that you need to do. And it will run the scenarios and it will generate an HTML report for you. This is the most simplest scenario flow. Now, what are the key elements in robot framework? First thing that we do, as in any other programming languages, you define variables, right? There's a way that we define variables. We'll look at the syntax. Then we define the keywords, which will be using variables. Then we will be defining test cases. Test cases will be built using the keywords. And once the test cases are ready, we will do the test case execution. How do we do this? Using the robot keyword. So robot keyword and whatever, you can do test execution of a single file, or it can be test suite. So in a folder, you put different test cases and you just pass the folder name, a folder location, and it will run all the tests in that folder. And finally, once the execution completes, you will see the test report has been generated and you can see the output and do your own analysis. Now, this, what you see on the screen, this is how you define. So in that single file, you have to segregate, you have to define sections that tell the robot framework that these are the variables, these are keywords, these are test cases. Now, variables are defined this way. So you have to use dollar, curly brackets, then one single space, equal to sign, and at least two spaces after that. So spaces matter a lot in this case. At least two spaces or more, doesn't matter. And then you give whatever value you want to assign to these variables. So these are all different ways the variables are defined. Now, we have to define the keyword. The variables are there. When do we use variables? When we want to reuse some value again and again in different places, then we define it as a variable and just call the variable so that we don't have to change the value in different places. Now, keywords, as I had mentioned earlier, you can write your own custom keyword, or there are keywords that exist. So I will be showing you the link. Robot Framework has its own documentation wherein whatever you see on the left, right, these are all keywords which you can directly use. So say you would have seen in my last example, I have used this capture page screenshot. All I have to say is which library I'm using, and I have to use this keyword, capture page screenshot, and screenshot will be taken and saved in the final report. If I think there is a keyword which doesn't exist. There is something I want to do and that keyword does not exist, and I am comfortable with Python, then what I can do is I can write my own keyword, something like this. I can write a Python, this is just a Python file, and I can define my own keywords. And then these are the keywords. So begin web assessment, end web assessment. So in this case, what is happening? I have to open a browser. I want to maximize my browser. I'm setting the speed, deleting cookies. This has to be done all the time. A new assessment starts, and I have to end the web assessment. Whenever the assessment ends, I want to take a screenshot and see what is the final state, and I want to close all the browsers. So these are keywords. This is a keyword, begin web assessment, made of other keywords. This is also another keyword. So these are all keywords we are defining. Finally, the test cases are built of keywords. So test cases, this is how you define the section, test case section. And here, analyze target is the keyword. And this is template which is being used. So you can pass different values and the same keyword will be called with different values. And this is the report, the final report that we took a look. This is how the report is going to look. Now, these are some of the useful links which you can take a look at whenever you want to. And this, I would like to open this link in specific. This has more details and this is publicly, this is accessible publicly. So you can, here I have mentioned in more detail how you can integrate in CI/CD pipeline also, and you can just take a look at it. Then this is Selenium 2 library. Yeah, so this link tells you the different keywords which is available in Selenium 2 library. So all the details you can see here. And the last one is user guide. So how do you want to use the, I think the whatever I clicked was not visible to you. But no, anyways, the link is there. And Jessica, I think you can share the slides also if anybody is interested in taking a look at it. So what's beyond authenticated crawling? I know I have 1.5 minutes and I'm almost done. So the practical scenarios, now beyond authenticated crawling, what you have to do is, so this is very practical. This first point is from a personal experience. So you have found a vulnerability and you have to repeat a very specific flow with precise inputs and small variations. And there was an SSR vulnerability which I had found, and it was such a tedious task because I had to create new account every time, go through the registration process, which had like 4 to 5 pages of registration page. I had to fill the data, and then I had to go to navigate to some other page to just look one small change. So think about it. If you could automate it very quickly, how much easier it becomes. So that is something in such scenarios you can use automation. If you want to consolidate output from different tools, if you want to generate a consolidated report in a human readable manner, if you also want to integrate your security test into the CI/CD pipeline, and if you want to leverage functional automation test cases. Now, the robot framework was mainly written for functional test cases, but I am just showing you how you can leverage it for security test cases as well. So yeah, that's all that I had planned for this talk. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can leave me a message and I'll make sure that I answer them.
Riddhi, you are fabulous. What a natural teacher you are. Well done. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.